job. Yeah, she's not going to join us. So. I love her. Okay. Yeah, we're covered. He's hiding. We're good. Okay. All right. We will call to order this Board of Equalization meeting Thursday, January 30th at 2:01 p.m. The first agenda item is to approve the minutes from our Board of Equalization on January 15th.
So moved.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item 2, the assessor approved process report.
So moved.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 3, BOE hearing process report.
So moved.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Approve or deny the class change secondary to primary residential. Any questions on those?
No.
Okay.
So moved.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes. Approve or deny the assessor recommendation in the requested class change from secondary to primary. Any questions on those?
Yeah, can I speak to this a little bit?
You bet.
This is a home up in Sundance.
Okay.
The owner lives in California and had submitted some information to us, an application to receive a primary residential exemption for 2024 and 25 maybe still up in question. With that application, they submitted a rental agreement with their granddaughter. And they also submitted a utility bill that was dated in September and a tenant rental agreement or tenant insurance that covered from February of 24 to February of 25. In a conversation Amy had with the owner, there's some questions of whether this really was being rented. Amy went up there first week of January and did not see any indication that anybody had been at the property. Didn't see, it looked like there was heat or anything coming out of the vents, and felt that the exemption shouldn't be granted. When I submitted this information to Sally, and then later was able to meet with Assessor Burt and let him know what was going on, he was concerned that we were basically saying that the owner was lying to us and wanted a little bit more information looked into. I went up last night after work and looked at it. The driveways on both sides have been plowed. It looked like somebody had pulled in. I also noticed there was a permit hanging on the gate post or the stairwell there. Come back today. I knocked on the door, nobody answered the door, but there were tire tracks across whatever vehicle they used to plow the snow. So somebody's pulled in there. There was on both sides of the driveway, there were some footprints. I come back this morning, pulled up the permit we had on it. It's for a remodel. There's a contractor's name and number. I called him just to find out what it was they were doing. And it also asked him, if it was available to go and see, if there was anybody living there. He first stated there was nobody living there, but then says, well, there's a daughter that's there, but she comes and goes for the film festival. So I'm kind of giving you guys this information to help us make a decision. Should this be granted a primary residential exemption or should it not? First, I felt no, but I'm also wondering why somebody would go and pay for a insurance on it, a renter's insurance on it, if nobody's actually living there. So I'm leaning more towards that they're probably, for 2024 at least, there's probably somebody there that met the requirements of the 183 days, but I haven't been able to meet anybody or see anybody there. And But also the conversation with the contractor makes me think that they probably have had somebody there throughout last year, off and on.
And historically, if it's a grandchild renting from someone, I mean, that sounds
As
like
long
that
as
doesn't
it's
mean.
their primary, the grandchild's.
Yeah, there is a lease that shows, I think it was in the documentation, it's $300 a month for that. And so, yeah, a family member would qualify if they are a tenant and it is their primary residence.
Good gig if you can get it. $300.
So the way it is the letter I put on there was for, you guys to deny it. So if you feel that they should receive the residential exemption, then I would think you would deny my request and grant their request.
I saw Commissioner Gardner. Did you have anything on this one, Commissioner Gardner? Were you able to hear the full explanation? Commissioner Gardner, can you hear me?
On a lot of other ones of these,
Sorry, I can hear you. Yeah. I'm having connectivity issues, but I can hear you most of the time.
Okay. Did you catch what's going on here with this Sundance property?
So somebody has renter's insurance on, so somebody lives there. Is that the gist of it?
It's still kind of up in the air whether or not there is someone there. Sounds like there's a
so
remodel going on.
a lot of
some permits.
people, when they provide what they provided, we would just do it. But it is also Sundance, and that's an area of second homes. A lot of them up there are second homes, so that raises some questions, and that's part of the reason we've done a little bit more digging on this. But also we don't necessarily want to say, yeah, we think you're lying. We haven't necessarily found adequate proof to say, yeah, the contractor's saying nobody lives there the last year. The permit was pulled in March of last year. There was a pipe that broke, and that's what caused them to hire the contractor. It's not finished yet because he's been having trouble getting people up there to finish. I think it's to the drywall state from what he told us, but he thinks he'll have it all done in the next couple months.
I mean, I'm leaning towards a deny, but I'd also be open to a conversation of if we needed to continue it to do more research.
I'm leaning towards the deny as well, just because if the work isn't done yet, not with somebody living there.
Well, I think that's part of the reason that they had somebody go up there. Somebody was there for the contractor and to see what was going on. And, once they got the water leak fixed, it made it so that somebody could live there. The damage was into the basement area, and that's where they've been remodeling. So you could approve them for the exemption for 24 and wait and see for 25, and we could continue to
This
try to
is the
figure out
24,
on
right?
25.
Mm-hmm.
This is only 24 that we're.
Yes.
Because I lean for yes, not denying.
Mm-hmm.
But Commissioner Gardner and you are for deny, so.
So the way it's written,
I
denying,
could go either way. I'm not
denying would
firm on
be
it.
denying my request to not give them primary residential with the letter they wrote and the way it's written.
Mr. Chairman,
Then you
just-
would be giving
go ahead.
them the exemption by denying it. Approving my request would be agreeing with Amy's assessment that it shouldn't receive it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, two things to point out, though, on the application. Not only do they have the rental insurance in the name of the probable
granddaughter.
occupant, the granddaughter, they also have the utilities in the name of the granddaughter, too, as well. The applicant provided both the rental insurance information and the utilities provided by North Fork Special Services District, so.
So, by definition,
I could.
go ahead, Commissioner.
I'd be fine approving it if they've got rental insurance and the utilities in the name of the granddaughter. Everything there, I'm fine approving it.
Which is basically accepting a denial, which then, in
I just want it clear.
a
what-
way, makes it
No, Commissioner Gardner means deny to give them the exemption.
correct. That's what I'm
Oh, and I'm on the same. That's
Okay,
where I am.
we're all
Yeah.
understanding each other. Okay. For 2024, and then we'll keep working on 2025.
So let them have it for 24 or?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's our understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You good with there? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to deny.
Motion to deny item 5.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Item 6, approve or deny petition to BOE. Property valuation, Hicken.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to kind of cover my thoughts on both items 6 and 7 concurrently, because they're essentially a same recommendation from the auditor's offices, which really we're not making a recommendation because I feel kind of meh about both of these. On one side, both of them are essentially first-time appellants. They gave fairly weak excuses, but for first-time appealers who are relatively new owners of these types of properties, it's not unusual. The board has approved weaker excuses like this in the past, given the first-time nature. And both of them, but the flip side of that is that they didn't bother to appeal until now, a couple of months after the deadline, and both of them were energized to appeal. I don't know a better word. Anyways, energized to appeal because they got a notice from their escrow company that their property tax, that their escrow payment was about to go up significantly. One of those was due because, on number 7 was due because the property type changed from primary residential to secondary residential. And I did have a conversation with the appellant about that, but they did still want to continue with the appeal, so they didn't withdraw that. I am 50-50 on both of these. So the auditor's office doesn't really have a strong recommendation one way or the other. I think it's up to the discretion of the board to grant these or not. But I imagine the assessor's office has an opinion that they'd like to share too as well.
Yeah, we have a little different opinion. Just that there's 4 reasons that a late appeal can be granted. Medical emergency, that a property owner has died, that there's a factual error presented that we agree with, or an extraordinary and unanticipated circumstances. And there wasn't anything provided by either of the owners on the next 2, 605 and 606, that fall into those unless you decide that they were unable to file the appeal because of an extraordinary or anticipated circumstances. And then they filed it 4 months late. One of the things that we do, on these, whether you approve it or not, is we do go in and look at our values and make sure for 2025 our values are where they should be.
I mean, 6 I felt was a extraordinary circumstance when I read the note. A believable and understandable reasoning. 7, I mean, I can see similarities, but I'm not as strongly in favor of that one as I am number 6.
Commissioner Gardner, we have a recommendation from Mr. Harvey with a meh. He's meh on this one. So how are you feeling?
Well, I think if there's a tie, we should err on the side of the citizen. A meh is better than a no.
You're feeling good on 6 to make a motion to approve?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve item 6.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor to approve, say aye.
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 Okay, 6. And on 7?
Commissioner, can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
So with regards to, this is 605, it looks like there's a couple of requests here, and one of them is requesting the evaluation be adjusted. Is this the appropriate forum to do that, or just the exemptions?
Looks like this item is just to hear if the filing deadline, if they met that, and then that would come later. Am I correct?
Yeah, this is, so the only thing on the docket right now Since this is Tim's first time in BOE, what we're doing is deciding whether or not the appeal can move forward. So we're just deciding on whether or not the appeal will be accepted and actually go through the process. So we're not reviewing the merits of the appeal. We're reviewing the merits of the excuse.
Thank you. Appreciate that explanation.
And so for 7, I know you're kind of a little less partial on this one.
Well, Bert, remind me sevens. They
7.
they're in pharmacy, medical school in Florida.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. So I had a good conversation with the gentleman. Part of the reason his property tax went up so dramatically was that the property was reclassified from primary to secondary, which of course changes the taxable value. He was not aware of that. Part of his problem was that he is now attending pharmacy school in Virginia. And he decided to keep this house rather than sell it as a investment property. He does have full-time renters there, so I directed him to where to apply to get the primary residential exemption changed back if possible. But he still felt that the value was too high, so he did want to continue with this. Yeah, and he hasn't changed the mailing address. Thank you, Sally. He hasn't yet changed the mailing address, and that's part of the reason because he probably would have done the primary residential exemption, but he missed all the notifications because his mailing address is not updated to his new. The mailing address is still for the property. So, there's just a series of mistakes, and again, I'm feeling, like I said, I'm feeling meh because this is not unusual for someone who's becoming kind of a accidental landlord. We actually did see this a lot, especially back in the mortgage meltdown in the last decade. But waiting until this long, I mean, it seems like you'd be paying more attention to this. But again, people put things on automatic pilot; they ignore them until they have to. So,
We have typically yielded towards first-time offenders being a little more, lenient there. But
Yeah, so I'm
that's
good with
historically.
that. So I'll move to approve item 7.
Commissioner Gardner, do you have a? And I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Sorry, I couldn't get it unmuted in time, guys.
Okay. You're good. Item 8, approve or deny petition to BOE for Sydney Walsh, number 607.
I believe this is, looks like to me to be factual error. I think the assessor's office agrees, and obviously that's where we would
do
go.
agree.
Good. Okay.
Okay, so motion to approve item 8.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Approve or deny 24 application for new property tax exemption for BYU. Hey.
Hi. Yep, this is 1000 North. This is adjacent to the old Provo High School property that plans are to demolish the existing, I think there's 4 apartment units or something on the property. The plan is to demolish those very shortly and then be used for educational purposes and become part of the BYU West campus.
Okay. And will you tell us your name for the record?
Yes, Eric Busaith. I'm the Assistant University Tax Manager.
Thank you, Eric.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just put in a point of process here. So obviously what we're determining now as to whether or not BYU's acquisition of this property will fall under their exemption as a 501c3 organization for educational purposes. Now, the one thing unique about education is, unlike charitable, they don't necessarily have to go through the process of showing the gift to the community. They just need to show that the property is now in current use. Vacant property can be considered used as long as the applicant can show how it's being used. If it's property being held for future use and is not actually being used, in this case, the questions surrounding the demolition and construction are relevant to whether the application whether the property would be qualify for that exemption. So, with that point of process,
And Commissioners, Adam Beck, Utah County Attorney's Office. I just wanted to add one thing. Vacant land, the term vacant land tends to give me a little heartburn because that tends to suggest that maybe the land is not being used. And so it's my understanding that the property is currently vacant. Under the standards of practice, property tax exemption standard 2, vacant land, says land which is not actively being used by the religious, charitable, or educational organization is not deemed to be devoted exclusively to educational purposes, and therefore is not exempt from property taxes. And so, I think that's just the question that we have, and that, if Eric is able to provide us with any more information, is the use, just going back to what Bert was saying.
Yeah.
What's your time frame for demolition, Eric?
That I do not know exactly. I don't have an exact time frame. I know they've said very, very shortly, but I do not know. I could ask some questions and find that out, see if I can get some more details if you would like that. But I do not know an exact time frame.
If I
I
can
know,
add,
I know when I've talked to the county
go ahead.
attorney, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
He said as long as it didn't stay vacant very long, he was okay with that. My plan is definitely not, there's no intention of keeping this vacant very long.
Just to, and one other point of clarification, we are considering an exemption for 2024. So this would be a partial exemption from the point of acquisition in October. Then BYU, if we granted the exemption, BYU then be able to add this to their continuing statement and be part of their mass approval. If it doesn't get approved for 2024, then they would have to do essentially a new application again and file that by March 1st of this year for 2025.
So we just need to consider if it was being used from October to December.
Yeah, so with 501c3 exemptions, we got the law changed a couple years ago that extends the amount of time they can file for the exemption from the point of acquisition up to 120 days. So BYU is timely filed. They do have up to 120 days to show that use has been put into process. In this case, obviously that use kind of crosses into 2025, so we can consider if they put it into use very recently because they're still within that 120-day window. But if the board, if based on their information and the board's determination that they have not yet put it into use, it would not qualify for exemption 2024, but they could still get that for 2025 as long as they file on time by March 1st for this year and have it in use and can show that to the board. Got some overlapping deadlines at this point.
For me, it's easier to hear his plans. I know that the plans are going to go through for the demolition and things versus, maybe if it was a less credible applicant, like I know those are your plans.
Yes.
And if you're saying that's your plans, I know that you will follow through with that.
Yes, and the existing.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but we're considering what it was.
24, October of 24 until
Yeah,
the end of the year.
yeah.
After you acquire property.
But
I'm inclined to decline because it wasn't being used for educational purposes during that time, and we don't even have a timeline on demolition, and they can absolutely come back and apply again. That's just my inclination.
When to Bird's point, would they be punished for timely filing? Is how I interpret. Like, are we punishing them for filing too quickly? Like, had they delayed their filing, would have made a difference?
No, we're not. They timely filed in order to try and qualify for 24. So
The 3 months, right?
Yeah, for the 3 months, which they're still within their time limit to file, and also still qualify. I think the probably 120 days probably rounds out. Given the acquisition date, that probably runs out about the end of this month or sometime in February. But they're not being punished at all. I mean, essentially, they could take the same application they've already given us and just change it to 2025 and file it by March 1st. The key here, though, of course, is it's one thing to have a plan, but with educational organizations, all they have to do is put it into use, meaning showing that they are using it for their dedicated purpose. Where the property is vacant and no construction, one of the two key elements that the tax commission has given us guidance on is construction commences or building permit being issued. I mean, you can even probably argue that a demolition permit, if it's been issued, that is commenced construction. But those things have to be. The auditor's office would probably argue that those things have to be present at the point the application has been decided by the board and heard by the board in order to show that. If nothing has happened, and if nothing happens before the timeline expires, again, they're not being punished. they're only being punished in the fact that they didn't qualify for 2024. That doesn't stop them applying for 2025. But again, when they apply in 2025 and when the application is heard by the board, they'll have to have that evidence in place in order for them to qualify in that year. It's a simpler application, but still the use has to be evident before the board. And that is, and it's the board's decision to accept that evidence or not.
And
I don't know if this makes a difference. I know the adjacent Provo High School that BYU already owns, where the old Provo High School was, that is currently being used for educational purposes. There is a chance they will merge those properties together on the road. I don't know if that makes any difference.
No, that helps me. I know knowing that the properties touch, right? And you can make that argument.
And if say we push this off till the next meeting, do you feel that you would have additional evidence of use from October to December or no?
I can try to find that out
Okay.
for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like Commissioner Gardner leans toward deny. I lean towards deny, but I'm happy if he thinks that he can produce something different. By then, I'm happy to kick it to the next one.
Okay. Is that appropriate?
I would only add one last thought on that is, again, what we're looking for is the evidence that the use commenced before the expiration of the deadline. So obviously I don't have that off the top of my head, but I should, but if you continue this to the next meeting, we'll be able to give you a hard deadline of when that use needs to have commenced. And as long as BYU can provide that evidence, then it's up to the board to decide whether that evidence is sufficient.
Well, and that gives him, he knows he's facing a
Exactly.
denial, right?
Exactly.
And they can determine if it's worth their time or energy.
Yeah.
We're talking a small period of the year, so that'll be up to the applicant.
Exactly.
I had a question maybe for the assessor's office, whether Adam or Theron. Would this be similar to like Greenbelt? So if we were to accept it, like you perhaps would appeal it to the state tax commission, saying, "Hey, we disagreed," and maybe.
There is an appeal right. I mean, I don't want to. I'd have to speak with the auditor's office and see if that's the direction we'd want to go. But there certainly is an appeal right, and it could potentially be appealed.
Because for 3 months, I want to avoid a lot of reapplication chaos and things like that.
Well, like I said, I mean, they may determine it's not worth his effort.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I'd entertain a motion to continue to the next BOE. I don't know what the date is, but.
Yeah, I motion to continue item number 9 until the next meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to continue it till the next meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Motion any other business? No?
No, sir.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. We are adjourned.
Goodbye.